Hi cuties! I hope you guys are doing so well. So this is like the part 2 of my trying out Crisania Neri products for the first time. The last video that I uploaded was the haul where I opened everything up and was absolutely blown away by how cute it was. And this video is going to be the nails that I'm making with all the products that I got. So at the end of my last video, I showed you guys this little sketch because I decided I wanted to really like plan out this set so that it came out really cute, because usually I feel like sets come out better when I plan it a little bit. So this is just like the rough plan of what I want the nails to look like. I want them to be really colorful and with a sculpted 3D element on basically every single nail. So yeah, this is a rare occurrence where we are just going to get straight into the nail art. Okay, so here are my natural nails at the moment. I have a hard gel layer on them like I always keep on them. I never remove this hard gel layer, only let it grow out and fill it in when natural nail comes in. If you want to see my whole in-depth process of just how I remove my nail art, fill in the hard gel layer, and do my prep and everything, I'll link the video up in the corner that I recently made going in depth into that. So yeah, I just went ahead and removed the blue cat eye gel polish that was on top, and so we're just left with the hard gel now. So I'm just gonna start. So I'm gonna start by wiping everything off with some rubbing alcohol to make sure it's nice and clean, since there's probably like oils and stuff on there and debris. Also, my hands are super dry right now, but I didn't want to put lotion on because I didn't want to get it all over the nails, because if you have moisture and oils on the nail surface, then it can cause the nail art to lift. So that's also why you just want to use rubbing alcohol. And I'm actually going to start with a base coat. So I'm just going to use this plant-based gel that I have from Melody Susie. And I'm going to put that on top of all of the nails, on top of all the hard gel that I have on, just to make sure everything is nice and evened out and we have like a smooth surface to do all the nail art. Full cure. Okay, and even though I'm like gonna go straight in and start doing the nail art on top of the base coat, I'm gonna wipe off the sticky layer that's left on top of the base coat when you cure it, because I don't want like dust and little lints and stuff getting stuck to it while I'm working on the nails like one by one. Looking good. So the way I've planned them out here is I planned out like all of the base designs of the nails, and then over here is all like the 3D art that I'm gonna put on top. So I think I'm gonna start with these two like ombre nails. I want to try to use the Pat art gel to create like these really nice gradients. So if you missed the haul video, this is the Pat art gel palette from Crisania. So adorable. And it has all of these art gels. They're like super creamy and can be used for making ombres, stamping, and also just like regular nail art. But the way I'm going to use them right now is to create the gradient like ombre. So to do that, I'm going to use one of these sponges. And I'm going to get out a couple because we're going to be doing like 3 different colors. So the sponges that I have are little cubes, but I think to do the gradient that I want, I don't really want any harsh edges. So I'm going to try to like grab it from the corner so that like the point of the sponge is sticking up like this. And one of y'all actually suggested that I do this if I want to make like softer gradients without like the harsh edges, but I'm going to chop off this corner and like try to like round out the sponge on the end, I guess. Kind of like that. So it's more of like a rounded tip. So I'm gonna start with the middle one, and I almost forgot. I'm actually gonna use this latex tape stuff around the edges of my nail, like on my skin, to protect my skin from getting the gel on it, because I know I'm probably going to end up getting some of the gel on my cuticles and stuff, just because I have to like pat it on with the sponge and I really want to get all the edges and everything. So I'm just gonna put this kind of as a protective layer around my skin so that the gel doesn't get all over my skin. Then I can peel it off afterwards. This particular one smells really weird though. I really don't like it. So I'm just gonna wait for that to dry. I do want this to be like a Christmassy themed set, but I don't only want to use like the traditional Christmas colors of like red and green and blue, you know? I want to use pink, yellow, and either green or blue. And part of the reason I don't want to use red and green is because I'm scared to gradient those together because they're complementary colors. So when they mix, it's just going to look like kind of a brown muddy color. So I want to be careful not to do that because I want these to be cute and pastel and colorful and not like muddy. So I'm going to start with this bright pink color right here. So pretty. And before I put it directly on my nail, I'm going to pat it on the palette part over here. So you can see when it's like a smooth coverage like that. And then I'm just going to start. Oh, I almost forgot. I wanted to put a milky white base on all of these. And I'm going to use my milky white from Devok. This is from Sweetie Nail Supply. The reason it's important for me to have a milky white base is because I really want to make sure all the colors pop more off the nail, and if I just do them directly on my natural nail, they might not pop as much, you know? Like having a white base is really gonna help the color to be like its true color instead of getting mixed with the tint of my nail as much. But I don't want it to be too stark, so that's why I'm just using a milky white instead of a white, like an opaque white. Yeah, milky white is gorgeous. All right, I think I'm just gonna do this like as I go along. So I'm just gonna give that one a full cure on its own. Now that has a sticky layer that I need to take off. So I'm just going to carefully wipe it with isopropyl alcohol without wiping off all of the latex. So now I can come back with the pink, and I'm just gonna like do it in the upper corner like so. Ooh, that's so pretty. That's so pretty already. And I think I want it to be a little, and what I'm gonna do is I'm kind of just gonna like keep layering it. So if I want it to be a little more vibrant and opaque, I'm just gonna come get a little bit more and keep doing it. And then I'm actually not going to cure it before I do the next color. I'm going to just like put this little sponge down over here. And then you could totally use like the other corner of the sponge to do like a different color, but I'm just going to use a new one because I don't want to risk the colors mixing or anything. But I did like how the effect of chopping the corner off worked a little bit. Also on Crisania's website, she actually has sponges that are like mushroom shaped, and I might have to get some of those. But for now, this will do. Okay, so next I'm gonna use yellow. And I'm gonna do the yellow like on this side over here. Kind of like gently mesh them together. Ooh, that looks good. And you see like yellow and pink, when you mix yellow and pink together, it creates more of like a orangish, peachy hot pink. So that's why I'm not worried about mixing them on top of each other. So yeah, if you're like creating gradients and you want to make sure that your colors don't come out muddy, I would just like look up a color wheel and make sure that the colors that you're mixing aren't directly across from each other. Because if they are, that means that they're complementary colors, and it means that they're probably going to create some like brownish, muddy, darker color when you mix them. Actually, you know, I don't even think you need to chop off the corner. I think if you just use it like this, it should be fine. So let me try that. The final color I'm going to do is blue. I was thinking about doing green, but green mixed with pink is probably going to make some sort of muddy color, since pink, if you think about it, is basically just a different shade of red. But blue mixed with pink will probably make a purplish color, and blue mixed with yellow will make a greenish color. So we've got nothing to worry about. Yeah, you really just gotta like pat it on there. Like, don't be afraid to just like go for it. I think I'm going to take actually a clean sponge now, and I'm just going to use this as like the blending sponge, and I'm just going to like pat the entire surface just to kind of try to make the colors blend a little bit flawlessly, or more flawlessly. I think there was like a little lint on the sponge and it's like, oh, stuck there. I don't want to use alcohol to take it out because it's going to like mess up the gradient, so I think I'm just gonna have to live with it. But oh, you know what? I should have dipped this clean sponge in like some base coat. I think that's how you do it. Okay, so real quick, I'm just gonna go over each of the colors again with their corresponding sponge to make sure that they're just like as vibrant as I want them to be for each color. This is definitely so much easier than taking out an airbrush and doing this with an airbrush, which I think is like the only other way you'd be able to get such a flawless ombre like this. Okay, I think that looks really good. So what I was saying about the base coat, and this is purely just from like memory, but I think somebody told me that if you use a little bit of base gel on a clean sponge, that it makes it like a lot easier to like smooth out the ombre. So I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna like dip the sponge in this base gel and I'm just going to like pat it all over. Okay, you know what? I think that looks pretty good, and if I keep doing stuff to it, it's just going to get overworked, so I'm just gonna give it a cure. I have a bad habit of not knowing when to stop and eventually overworking everything that I do. At this point, overworking is just like my style, you know? Okay, now that that first layer is cured, I'm actually going to go in with the sponges one more time with each corresponding color and just layer a tiny bit more just to get like the more saturated parts even more saturated. Since I feel like at some point before you cure it, like if you don't cure the first layer, it just starts kind of picking up the color that you already put down when you try to keep layering on wet gel. All right. Before I do the final cure, I'm actually just going to take off this stuff. And I'm going to use a little Q-tip to clean up around the edges if I can. And I'm going to give it a cure. Okay, I think that went really well, except there is like a lot of texture and also lint from the sponge. I really don't know how to avoid that. If you guys know how to avoid getting like little sponge particles and lint and stuff when doing this, definitely let me know. I really like how that turned out though, so I'm going to repeat the same process on my pinky nail and probably just ombre between two colors instead because there's not as much surface. Okay, those gradients are really pretty. This one got a little muddy in the center, I feel like, or I just like overworked it a little too much, but since I'm going to be sculpting over it, I'm not really worried about that. So these are the cat eye gels from Crisania's CX Sky collection. And I especially love this purple one right here, like this bluish purple one is so pretty. So I definitely want to use this one and also this blue one, which is actually very similar to the one that I have on right now, but definitely a little different. And also it changes color slightly with temperature, which I didn't even really realize the first time that I swatched them. Moonbeam and Sea Wing actually are so pretty. Oh my gosh, I just want to use all of them. Okay, I think I'm gonna end up using these two probably. Just like look at the colors, so pretty. So in my little thumbnail sketch, I made the nail with like the little swirl on it blue, but I think I'm actually going to use the Sea Wing color because it's like a greenish pinkish, which I think goes along with our theme of colors. So again, I'm going to start with the milky white to create like a nice soft base for the color of the cat eye gel to really pop off of. And I'm going to do 2 layers of this. So for the first layer, I'm just going to get it on. And this first layer is just going to really be to like build up the opacity of the color so it stands out more. So using my magnet, I'm actually just going to like push all of the little like silver parts away. So I'm just gonna like drag the magnet directly over the surface. And I learned this from Rebecca Paints Nails actually. She does this when she just wants to create like a foundation layer of like the color of the gel polish. And I'm gonna quickly cure that. And then I'm gonna put a second layer on. And this is the layer that we're really gonna like get that cat eye gel effect from. Yes, can you guys hear my stomach rumbling? I need to go eat something, but I'm trying to like tell myself to finish doing the base nail art before I go get something to eat, but I may have to go get something to eat. To magnetize this one, I'm actually going to use my little like horseshoe magnet thing. So I'm going to put this in there like that. I used this the last time I did my nails. So when you put this all the way down, it creates like a very kind of narrow cat eye effect. And if you kind of like try to lift it up a little bit, you can get like different thicknesses of effect, you know, and you can like move the magnets around and everything. So you can kind of just like play around with the magnet until you're happy with how it looks and then give it a cure. And I'm curing it inside of the magnet because I do not want the particles to start moving because they start moving really quickly. So there's that. It's kind of hard to tell the effect in these lights, but it is very pretty. So now I'm going to grab these gels out again, and I want to use, I think I'm going to use this one because it's like a greenish blue, kind of like the color of the cat eye gel. But I think I do want it to be a little bit more pastel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some with this little silicone tool and put it over here on the palette. And make sure to clean off the tool from the blue. And then I'm also going to grab a little bit of the white. And I'm going to mix them together over here to make a little bit more of a pastel color. I like that better. I actually put a little bit of base coat on my liner brush to help kind of like smooth out the gel a little bit. And I'm pretty annoyed with myself because I did not clean my liner brushes the last time I used them. So my favorite ones are dirty right now, and I'm using this one, which is not my favorite one, but it should still work. I always do that. I'm always like tired by the time I'm done with like the nail art, and I'm like, I'll just clean up this mess later, and then all my brushes get gunked up. And then I have to spend time soaking them in acetone and cleaning them with brush cleaner. Actually, I'm looking at this and I'm kind of thinking it might be better to just use like the same blue that I used for the ombre instead. So let's try that. Using it directly from the pot, it definitely has a thick like painty texture to it that you can see, kind of like acrylic paint when using acrylic paint, which I actually like. But if you don't like that, just mix it with a little bit of base gel and that should kind of get rid of that for the most part. Okay, actually for this like swirl, it's actually a lot harder to do with the thicker texture, like the stickier thick texture that the gel has usually, because whenever I try to go in and clean it up, it just won't come off. And also like the brush isn't gliding as freely. So I have some base gel over here on the palette, and I'm just going to mix up a good amount of the blue with the base gel just to thin it out a little bit to make it glide easier. Oh yeah, that already feels a lot easier to work with. Because I imagine that it would be really great to have like the stickier texture for little tiny smaller details with a very delicate precise brush, but since I'm doing more like longer strokes, it's going to be easier for me right now to have it be a little bit thinner. Yeah, adding that base gel made it like so much easier to do lines. Okay, I'm gonna cure that. And in case you were wondering, this gel does cure with a sticky layer, so you've got to remove that. So we've just got to get a move on through this base art. So for the ring finger, I'm just going to do that same cat eye base, but instead of using the sea wing color, I'm going to be using the moonbeam color, which honestly, looking at the finger with the swirl on it, I kind of wish that I just used the moonbeam color for that one as well. I think it would have looked a little bit more cohesive and just better, but it's okay. I know at the end when all like the 3D art is on top and everything, it's really not gonna make much of a difference. So I decided that I want to do a polka dot nail because I feel like they've been kind of popular recently and I just haven't done it, mostly because I don't really even like polka dots, but I think that it could be like a cute pattern to add in underneath the 3D art. So I'm gonna use this lavender purple color right here. Would this be lavender or is this more periwinkle? And that's lavender. And we're just gonna make polka dots. I'm running into a little problem because when I try to like do the dot, the gel is like so elastic that it kind of strings up a little bit. So I think to remedy that, I'm just going to mix it with a little bit of base coat again. Oh yeah, that is so much better. And between every single dot, I'm actually re-dipping my ballpoint tool into the gel again because I want all of the dots to be the same size. And if you don't re-dip it and you just keep going, the polka dot that you make is going to just continue to get smaller and smaller. Okay, there's the polka dots. So for the thumbnail, I want to do a kind of like gingham pattern, and I think for the base I'm going to use this fairy dust one just so we can like stick with the theme of these cat eye gels. But of course I'm going to do a milky white base like I've been doing, which honestly I don't know how much the milky white base is helping because honestly these colors are kind of more opaque than I thought, but I don't know if that's just because I am doing it on top of a milky white base or because I'm just like layering them more. I just want to revisit like my plan for a second because I'm kind of stuck on what color I should use to do the gingham part, because originally my idea was for the thumb to be like a green gingham on white and then add little like red or pink hearts, but I felt like that didn't really match anymore with like the color theme that I have going on. So then I thought maybe it would be more like this one that I did down here that was like, okay, if that doesn't match, then maybe I'll do like a blue gingham instead. But I don't think a blue gingham would necessarily look good on this purple color. So I feel like yellow gingham has a potential to look cool on top of the purple, especially because there's yellow in the gradients and I don't have yellow anywhere else in the nails yet. So I think I am going to try to do that. So I just want to thin it out a little bit so that the lines are just like a bit more smooth and silky. It's always like at this phase in the nail art where I'm feeling very unsure about how it's turning out, but I'm just trying to tell myself to trust the process because I know it'll look cute in the end with like the 3D sculpted nail art, because I want this set to have like a very like colorful, bright, like kawaii vibe, which is why I'm using like all the different colors instead of just like Christmas colors. And I think all the different patterns like by themselves right now on the nails looks kind of weird, but I think that once it's combined with everything else, it'll have like a really cute like kitsch look to it. And since I'm doing like just very straight lines, I'm using a longer liner brush, which is much easier to use for making like long straight lines. Okay, I actually hated how that purple and yellow nail was turning out, so I just was getting super frustrated and overstimulated by trying to do everything on camera and feeling like it was taking way too long, so I just turned off the camera and I removed all of that one, and I also removed this one and changed it to be purple like the other one, but instead of doing like the accent with the light purple, I made the light purple the base of the nail and then used that Moonbeam cat eye gel to do the swirl, and I think that looks a lot better. And then I also did another gradient on the thumb to incorporate some green and purple so that we kind of have all the colors of the rainbow now, although green really only shows up at the tip right here, but I'll have to incorporate green into like the 3D nail art somehow. But actually, before I go on to do any 3D nail art, I want to protect the base layer with a top coat, and I figured I might as well use this glitter top coat because this glitter top coat is so sparkly and pretty, and I think like glitter just always looks good in every single set, just makes everything better, and especially in like a Christmas theme set I feel like glitter is really cute because, you know, like sparkling lights and everything. So I think it'll just make everything even better, and it'll make sure that none of the ombre chips or anything at the edges, because I'm going to make sure to seal in the free edges of all the nails. I think because my plan for the bases of the nail was kind of rough and I didn't know exactly which products I was going to use for each design, I ended up not having a very solid idea of what I was doing, even though I had it all sketched out. And then whenever I'm like trying to figure out what I'm doing at the same time as I'm like trying to explain it to you guys, and then it's like not working out, I start getting really frustrated. So I think that's why I was just like hating it and just had to just like take a deep breath and redo those couple nails. I do think this looks a lot better though. I just can't even imagine if I was doing like this type of design on both of my hands right now, because just getting this far has taken me, embarrassingly enough, like 4 hours. So yeah. Ooh, the ombre looks so beautiful with the top coat on it. My goodness. So I have everything out that I need for the 3D nail art components. Let's do it. I'm actually just gonna like open this up and take out all of these little pots, just so they're all ready to use. Again, if you want to see me unbox and show you each of these products in depth, make sure to check out the haul video that I posted before this one, because today I'm just going to be showing you the ones that I end up using, not all of the ones that I got necessarily. So basically my plan is to do 3 main 3D art, like characters. I want to do a little Christmas cat with a scarf, a little red-nosed reindeer, and a little bunny with a halo, like a little angel bunny. And then I want to do 2 kind of like accent 3D nails that is going to be little jam cookies and 3D Christmas lights. Sorry about the camera shaking also. I want it to be recognizable as Christmas themed, but I also want it to be kind of like a tokidoki, colorful, kawaii look to it. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and start with the jam cookies, because out of all of these different components, I think that they will be the easiest to make. So this will just be like my little warm up. And of course I'm going to use the Angel Cake color, which comes in Crisania's Pastel 3D Gel collection. It's the perfect color for like any sort of baked good. I'm going to do the little accent 3D designs on the pattern nails because I want to make sure that you can like still see the pattern that I did on them. So I'm going to start by doing the cookies on the spiral nail. I'm going to use this little tool that I've got from like a Korean nail art palette or something, but you can also just use a cuticle pusher to just like grab a tiny bit of this gel out. I think one thing that's going to be hard for me is I always tend to use more product than I need, and I really need these to stay small since I'm doing them on my like natural nail length and not on like crazy extensions. So I'm going to really try to get just a little bit of product out, and I'm going to put the first cookie like up here. Oh, actually, before I put the cookie on, I just realized since there is a top coat on this, before I put any of the 3D gel on, I want to use a little bit of nail primer because this will just add the tacky layer back onto the nail surface and ensure that the 3D nail art doesn't just like pop off of the top coat. I'm not sure that it would even if I didn't use the nail primer, but I just feel like more safe using the nail primer. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a little nail primer to the entire surface and kind of like just try to scrub it on there until it feels kind of tacky. All right, and then I got that little piece of clay over here, and I actually think it was gonna be a little tiny bit too much, so I'm gonna remove a little bit. And I'm going to take this little part and put it on the nail. And I really didn't like sculpt it or anything like that. I'm actually just going to sculpt it directly on the nail. And I know Crisania actually has a specific brush for this, but I don't have it. So I'm just going to use this doughy brush from Nail Bayo. I think it's kind of similar to her sculpting brush, so that's what I'm going to use. And then on this little palette, I'm going to take out some of her 3D blending gel because I think that this helps to kind of like sculpt out the 3D clay a little bit and like just makes the brush glide a little bit better. And now I'm just going to try to shape this into a little heart shape. So one of the cookies is going to be a heart-shaped cookie with a heart-shaped jam, and the other cookie is going to be a circle cookie with a heart-shaped jam. This color is absolutely perfect for cookies though. Like I don't even have to color it or anything. This is absolutely perfect. It literally looks like cookie dough shaped into a heart. I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to try to sculpt the smaller cookie that I want to also be on here down here. And I'm just going to like sculpt it out and make sure that I'm okay with the placement. And if I'm not okay with the placement, I'll just change it up, even though I know it's going to be kind of hard. And I would rather not do that because honestly, this like blending gel stuff, it's really cool. It actually makes the 3D gel feel kind of sticky. It almost makes it into like a really thick, creamy texture so that you can blend it easily. Obviously, that's probably why it's called blending gel and not like sculpting gel. It makes it like really easy to move around. What it's really meant for is if you're using like, if you have two little parts of clay, like let's say like a head and a body, which we will get to later with our little bunny. But if you have like a head and a body and you need to connect those two pieces of clay, then you would use this 3D blending gel to like seamlessly blend two pieces of clay together. Okay, I actually really like the placement of those, I think. I mean, the heart one could be a little bit higher, but I don't think it's like that big of a deal that I want to actually spend the time scraping this one off and completely redoing it. So what I'm going to do is take this brush that I've dipped in a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, and I'm going to try to clean up the edges a little bit because while I was sculpting those out, I did kind of get the sculpting gel on the rest of the nail. Also, you can kind of perfect the shape around the edges with like the isopropyl alcohol and kind of smooth it out a little bit. I don't want it to be too smooth though because these are supposed to be baked goods. So usually when you put something in the oven and bake it, it doesn't come out looking perfect. I want them to look like homemade baked cookies, not like bought from the store cookies. You know what I'm saying? Because me and my cousins sometimes we make these really fun thumbprint cookies with like jam. It was like my grandma's recipe, and this is what I imagine these ones being. That looks so perfect. I want to kind of create like a little bit of a cookie texture before I cure it. So, and this should actually be super easy to do. I'm just gonna take this brush that got a really frayed when I tried to clean it, and I'm gonna make sure it's clean, and I'm just gonna take that and kind of lightly just pat it onto the surface, and it's gonna make this little like speckled texture that I feel like looks more like cookies. At least this is like how when I used to try to make Sculpey 3D polymer clay cookies, I remember watching YouTube in like 2015 and seeing people use toothbrushes to make texture in the clay if it was like supposed to be a baked good or something. So I think this brush should work exactly in like the same way. It doesn't have to be perfect. There really is no such thing as perfect when it comes to baked goods. And then, like I said, I want these to be thumbprint cookies, but the indent is going to be in the shape of a heart. So I'm going to use this little dotting tool. Actually, I think this dotting tool might be a little too big. I'm going to use this dotting tool that I dipped in a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, and I'm going to make the little thumbprint in it. The little indent where I'm going to put the quote-unquote jam. And before I cure anything, I'm just going to make sure that the shape of the cookie still looks good around the edges. And before I cure it, I'm just going to add a little bit of final texture just in case some of it got smoothed out. All right, and I'm going to give that a cure. And then for the jelly part, I'm actually going to use this gel polish from Yogurt Gel, which I'm pretty sure this one is actually from their jam collection. And it's like a very jelly, semi-transparent, sparkly red. So I think it's going to be perfect. And I'm just going to use my little teeny tiny brush to drop it just straight into the center. Just like you would do if you were making actual thumbprint jam cookies. Oh my goodness, that is flipping adorable. Are you kidding me? I was not actually expecting it to look that good. You guys, this is what they mean when they say trust the process. I feel like that is absolutely adorable. So I'm going to give that a cure before it can run away or anything like that. It doesn't have to be a complete cure, just enough for it to not be like such a liquidy consistency that's going to move around. And I'm going to do the same with this other little one. Cute. Adorable. I think that the circle one is definitely probably a little bit more lopsided, but that's totally fine because like I said before, they're cookies, and handmade cookies, anything handmade, unless it's made by a robot, is not perfect. So it's totally fine. I'm going to give them a little full cure for 60 seconds in my little finger cave. And if I wanted to get like super into it and really get into the little nitty-gritty details, what you could do is get a pastel, like a brown chalk pastel, get a little brush and brush it on the pastel and then dab it on the like tan parts to make the cookie look a little bit brownish, like you know when it's been in the oven like maybe a little too long or just long enough and it starts getting golden brown. But I actually think it looks perfect like this. Like this color is so perfect for doing cookie and cake type stuff. And I absolutely love it. Like it looks so good on the nail. I'm just going to go ahead and top coat these as I finish them. So right now my favorite glossy top coat is this one from Melody Susie. It's super duper glossy. I'm not going to put it on the whole nail though. I'm actually going to take this brush that was like all frayed and try to just put it mostly on the base of the nail. It's okay if it gets on the other parts. I just didn't want to put it on the entire nail because I am going to go over with different top coat on the cookie part. So I feel like it would kind of just be a waste and just bulk it up a little too much. So I cured that, and now I'm going to take this matte top coat from Crisania, which she actually developed specifically for chrome isolation, but I'm just going to use it to make the tan part of the cookie look like a cookie, and I do just want to try it. So we're going to use it, and I'm going to use this really tiny liner brush. And I'm going to just put it on the cookie part. It's okay if it gets on the jam part, but we're actually going to be painting the jam part with glossy top coat again after I cure this. So I'm really going 100% on the effort for these cookies, guys. I want them to look adorable. But also this is probably going to get rid of a lot of the texture, which is unfortunate, but it's okay. Going to try to make it as thin of a layer as top coat as I can for each cookie. And then after I've wiped off all of the matte top coat from the brush, I'm going to get some glossy top coat on the brush. And I'm going to top coat the little jam part with glossy top coat. Since jam is like a liquid, obviously jam is like glossy, it is not matte. And there we go. So now for the little 3D Christmas light string on the polka dot nail. For the wire, I'm going to use this jelly black clay. So this is what I usually like to do when sculpting with the clay, is take out my little disposable transparent sticky note. You can find these little disposable palettes by just looking up transparent sticky note on Amazon. And Again, I'm going to take a pretty small piece of this because I do want the wire to be very thin. And I'm just going to start by rolling it into a little snake, a very thin little snake. It's not getting stuck to the sticky note, which I really like. You can also use a little silicone tool to do this. If you want to use your fingers to mold it though, I definitely would use gloves. Even though this is HEMA and TPO free, you always just want to be careful like touching chemically stuff. Okay, I think that that's more than enough from like here to here. So I'm just gonna put this back into, actually I'm just gonna put this to the side for now because I can use this for part of the light bulb. And then before I forget, I'm going to put my primer on top of the top coat that I already have, that glitter top coat that we put on earlier. It's really like kind of gummy textured. It's like more elastic than any of the other solid gels I've ever used before. Okay, so my original plan was to have it kind of form a little heart shape, like twist into a little heart. And I don't know if that's going to be completely possible because that seems kind of difficult to do, but I'm going to try my best. Ooh, I think I might have done it a little too short actually. All right, I'm just going to take this part. I think the amount of gel that I have is perfect. I think it just needs to be a little bit thinner and longer. So I'm just going to try to roll it out into a thinner, longer little snake. Just gonna try to mold it exactly how I want it to be with my brush and the blending gel. I'm gonna try to get it to look like a little heart and stuff and see if I can get it to look good, but if not, I will just take it off and try placing it again. This blending gel is very interesting. It's not like any other gel consistency I've tried. It's super almost like thin, but at the same time, it's not super, I don't know, like watery or it's like viscous, but it's thin. It's kind of hard to explain. But it does work really well for getting the gel to like this state where you can really manipulate it really well instead of just like kind of pushing it around. That was actually so much easier to do than I thought it was going to be with the blender gel. I have a little wire twisted into like a little heart shape, and I actually want to try putting chrome over this. But first I'm going to create the little light bulb stems with more of the black gel because I also want those to have chrome on them. The main reason why I definitely want to use the chrome is because right now you can't really see the jelly black that well on this purple background. So I think that this is a perfect opportunity to try using the matte top coat for the chrome isolation. I don't know if I'm really going to be doing it in the proper way. I'm pretty sure it's meant for like things that naturally like dry with a non-wipe layer meant for chrome, but we're going to try it out anyway. Before I add any of the chrome, I'm actually going to sculpt the little light bulbs themselves. And I decided I want to make them pink, green, and yellow. And these are all from the Pastel 3D Sculpting Gel collection. I was debating on whether or not to use the glow-in-the-dark white gel and just make them all white and then use a very jelly color to just like tint them. That way they'd still glow in the dark. But I kind of decided that I'm going to use the glow-in-the-dark gel for something else, and I do really just want to use these really vibrant pastel colors. I think that they're going to look super cute and match like the colorful gradients that I did really well. So I'd prefer for them to just like not glow in the dark because honestly most of the time I'm not looking at these in the dark, I'm looking at them in the daylight. Okay, so that's all the 3D sculpting done, but now like you can obviously tell if I just left it like this, you would not even barely be able to tell that that's like a heart-shaped wire curl or whatever. It just looks like some floating orbs on the nail. So I do want to try to do the chrome isolation. So I'm going to take the matte top coat for the chrome isolation. And the way you use this is, or at least how I understand how I've seen her use it, is you put this over the entire nail, and everywhere where this matte top coat is, the chrome will not stick. So for now, I'm just putting it over the entire nail, and then I'm going to go back in with my glossy top coat and put the glossy top coat just where I want the chrome to stick. So now I'm going to take that same glossy top coat that I was using before and my little tiny brush, and I'm going to apply the top coat, glossy top coat, only to the black or the jelly black cord part, or everywhere that I want the chrome to stick. So if you are using a product that cures non-wipe, like a specific liner gel or something, you could use it directly on top of this matte top coat and not have to like particularly place the glossy top coat like I'm placing it right now. And then the chrome would just be perfectly isolated on the part that you painted over the matte top coat, because basically the reason that I think this is like a really like big deal is because sometimes when you try to put chrome on just like a specific isolated part, it's really hard to keep it from sticking to the rest of the nail as well, and it just like kind of applies not as cleanly. And now that I've fully cured that glossy top coat, I'm gonna take this silver chrome from Beetles and hopefully take this little part off without completely, okay, that wasn't too bad. This is like a very loose chrome powder. Okay, I'm gonna dip this little sponge in here. And if I rub it all over this nail, it should really only end up sticking to the part where I put the glossy top coat on, which hopefully, if I did it right, was only on the little wire and nowhere else. So I'm just gonna put it everywhere basically, and then use this little brush on the end of this thing and brush it off so that it comes off of anywhere where the matte top coat was basically. Wait, that worked so well! Oh my goodness, that's so cute. I don't know if you can really tell that it's a heart, but I think it worked really well. That's crazy. I was kind of expecting it to like give me a lot of difficulty, so I'm like really surprised that it worked so well. Oh my goodness. I did get a little bit right there on the light that I don't want to be there. I think maybe I accidentally put the glossy top coat there, because it is really difficult to kind of tell where you're putting the glossy top coat sometimes, because it is clear. So I'm just going to kind of wipe that off with some rubbing alcohol and my little mini Q-tip. But yeah, the rest of that is absolutely perfect. So before anything gets messed up, I'm just going to put another quick glossy top coat over the entire nail, because that was my like main objective, is to have the entire thing be glossy. Although it is kind of a cool effect to have part of it be glossy and part of it be matte, but I like glossy things. So I'm just going to put the glossy top coat over everything, including the chrome. And it's probably a good idea to have a different top coat specifically for top coating chromes and powders, because little bits of the powder might end up sticking to your brush and getting in your top coat, but I'm honestly not super worried about that, because most of the nails I do end up having some sort of glittery aspect to them, so it's really not a big deal. Okay, so now that I've got the main little like accent 3D art done, let's revisit the sketch to see like the main little characters that I have to do, which is the little scarf kitten, the red-nosed reindeer, and the little bunny with a halo, so like the little cherub angel bunny. And I think I'm gonna start with the little halo bunny, because I'm a little bit nervous about making that on this teeny tiny pinky nail. So I just kind of want to do it to get it out of the way. So for the bunny, I'm going to be using the white 3D gel for the bunny head, and then our glow-in-the-dark kind of like milky white color for the halo. And then I'm going to be painting over the halo with a really jelly yellow color. So I'm going to start with the white because I want to sculpt out the little head of the bunny first. And you guys have seen me sculpt out little bunnies before, but this is just going to be a little different, basically just because I'm using a different product this time. I really, really like the texture of this 3D gel. It's super soft and sculptable. Like it's very easy to manipulate into the shape that you want. All right, so I don't know if that might be a little too much. No, I think that's good. So the first thing I'm going to do is use my brush dipped in a little bit of the blending gel to kind of blend together all the creases that came from just like straight out of the pot to try to make it like molded into one lump of gel or a lump of clay. And this blending gel really does make it super easy to do that. It literally just like erases the creases. It's kind of insane. I wish I had this product for like my Sculpey clay when I was trying to sculpt little chibis and stuff when I was in middle school out of Sculpey clay, and I could like never get rid of the creases. Once I've erased all the creases, I'm going to use this brush with some rubbing alcohol. I'm just kind of going to smooth out the entire surface to kind of just get rid of the texture from the brush. And then using the isopropyl alcohol, I also can kind of shape it into the exact shape that I want for the little head. I'm finding it a lot easier to shape with the brush than with like the silicone tool that I would usually use to shape the sculpting gel. So yeah, definitely if you have tried using like 3D gel before to create little characters or things other than just like simple flowers and stuff, I would definitely try using a brush. It's a lot easier than using a silicone tool. If you don't have like the specific blending gel, you can just use isopropyl alcohol or base gel and it should work well too, I'd imagine. So for the ears, instead of creating like two separate little pieces of clay and molding them separately, I'm actually just going to create one piece of clay and just create like an indent in them. I feel like that's just going to be like a lot less work, and it should be like a lot easier to make them symmetrical than if I did two separate little pieces. And I feel like it's also a lot easier to make them smaller that way, because when I'm like picking up two separate pieces of clay, I feel like it's a lot easier for them to be bigger than they need to be. Like even when I was just picking up one piece of clay for 2 ears, it was bigger than it needed to be because there's barely enough room for the halo. So as I'm sculpting these out, I'm using the isopropyl alcohol to shape out the clay, and I'm using the blending gel to blend together the two separate pieces of clay. So for instance, with this bunny, I'm using the isopropyl alcohol to shape out the ear shape, but then I'm going in with the little bit smaller brush and the blending gel to blend the ears more into the head part that I already cured. That little bunny head actually turned out so perfect. Like more perfect than I could have imagined it to be. So time to do the halo, and honestly I have barely enough room to do the halo at the top of this nail, so it's going to be like the most tiny halo in history. But we're gonna use this ghostly glow, which is this like milky white color, and it glows in the dark like this bright blue color, and it's super duper glowy. And I'm basically just going to do the same thing that I did with the Christmas lights, where I'm going to roll it into a really thin snake and then turn it into a little ring on the nail. So now I'm going to go ahead and paint on the little face expression, which I'm just going to do with the black gel from the Pat Art Gel palette that I have and that I've been using this whole video. I'm going to mix it with a teeny tiny bit of base gel just so that it can glide a little bit better, and I'm going to paint it on with that super tiny liner brush that I've been using. And what I love about mixing this gel with a tiny bit of base coat is that it makes it really easy to like glide and do painting with, but it doesn't make it in any way less opaque. And actually I was doing this earlier in the video and then I realized on the little sticker of notes that Crisania gives you of directions on how to use this gel, she literally says as a tip to mix this gel with a little bit of top coat if you're doing nail art with it or like liner art with it. So yeah, there you go. That's what it's meant to be used for. I can't tell if those eyes are way too big or not. I feel like drawing two little circles in a W shape should be a lot easier. Like, why is this harder than sculpting the entire shape of the bunny? It's probably a me problem. That looks insanely creepy. Okay, I'm going to fix that really quick and cure it, and I'll be right back. Alright, I don't know if that looks cute or creepy, but hopefully adding the blush and everything will make it look a little bit more cute. So to make the blush, I'm going to mix some of the pink with base coat, and to make the halo color, I'm going to mix a little bit of the pink with base coat. So just making the colors a little bit lighter than they already are, a little bit more see-through basically, especially for the halo color because I really want to be able to see the glow in the darkness through it, which we aren't going to be able to even tell if there's like a super opaque color covering it. Alright, so on this page I drew two little silver bow charms, which I was kind of debating whether or not to use for one of the nails over here, and after I do the little cat on my thumb, I might end up doing the silver bow charms on my middle finger instead of the little red-nosed reindeer, but we'll have to see how I feel after I do the scarf kitten. So let's go ahead and do the scarf kitten on my thumb. So I'm going to use the white again to do the scarf kitten. I kind of wanted to make her like my cat Arwen, who is black and white, but I don't really feel like coloring her, so I'm probably just going to leave her white and color in her little scarf or make her scarf colored. Using this clay in conjunction with the 3D blending gel is like the closest that I've gotten to sculpting actual like air dried clay with water. Using this Cris clay in conjunction with her 3D blending gel, it really does make it like very moldable. And I'm finding it so much easier to sculpt really teeny tiny than I did in the past. Like right now I am sculpting on my natural nail length, which is long, but not as long as I've sculpted on in the past. Like in the past, I would only sculpt on nails that were like extra long, or at least extra long. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself for being able to sculpt so small. I'm not gonna lie. And I hope that all of you guys who don't like to use extensions or can't use extensions can just like take away from this that you can do adorable, really involved nail art just on your natural nail. You do not have to use extensions or gel X or anything like that. And I think that's what I myself am learning from this experience of just trying to do nail art on my natural nail length instead of always using extensions. So I'm really glad that I'm finally experiencing this. When I'm sculpting this little kitty out, I'm definitely not curing it before I've like blended each of the little parts of the body together, like the head and the arms and the feet. And I feel like it's a lot easier to blend with this blending gel if it's not cured. It is embarrassing how long I spent trying to get the shape of this cat right, but for some reason it just looks really weird to me. It is absolutely off-center, insanely off-center. So I've made the executive decision to redo it. I don't don't know, like, I just kept trying to work the exact same thing, and it wasn't turning out, so I'm just gonna have to try to start over. Sometimes it is just better to just start over. There is no shame in starting over, okay? Sometimes you just didn't start the right way, and you need to start over. Which is what I'm doing today. So yeah, I think this is like one of the first times where I've spent an entire video just doing like in-depth nail art and not like talking about a specific product or describing a specific product or anything. And yeah, I think specifically because I'm doing a lot of 3D sculpting in this one, it's just taking a really long time and getting kind of a little bit frustrating, but I'm gonna try to take a deep breath, take a sip of my poppy drink, and try not to think about it too much. But I just like to show you guys when I decide to like start over, and I like to show you guys all of the steps because I want you to know that it is okay to work on something for an hour and decide to start over, and it's okay if your nail art takes you a long time, because by gosh, does it take me a very, very, very long time. I mean, honestly, you could probably make him look better than I'm making him look right now, spending less time and not putting it on the internet, but, you know, I just want to let you guys know that there's no reason to spend as much time as I do if you don't want to. Like, don't feel pressured to. It's really fun to have nails that are just painted one color as well, so yeah. It is actually insane how long I took manipulating that little piece of clay to look like a little chubby cat. And I don't even know if it looks good, but we're just gonna go with it because I've spent way too long doing this. And I think I'm gonna make this scarf pink just because on this nail we already have green, blue, and purple. So I'm just gonna use the actual pink clay to do that. I was thinking of just like painting it on, but I do think it'll look cuter if I use the actual pink clay. Also, if the clay isn't like sticking when you first try to put it on, try to put a little bit of primer on, and that usually helps it to stick a lot better because it adds a sticky layer on. Because this clay is like very kind of soft and crumbly in a way. Not really like crumbly, but it's just very like soft in a good way. But sometimes it can be a little hard to get it to stick to a surface that's not sticky. That looks so derpy. That looks insanely derpy. I did not mean for it to look that derpy, but honestly, I think it like looks kind of derpy in a cute way. That might be like a cute set of derpy Christmas nails. Very tired and it is very late. And I have sculpted out a nail design for every single nail up until now, so I think I'm actually just going to finish off with the 2 silver bow charms because I think it would actually look really good with the silver chrome that is on the ring finger because they'd both be silver, and up until now the silver chrome on the ring finger for the lights is the only chrome that is on the entire set and the only like silver that's on the entire set, so I do think that the 2 silver bow charms would actually look really good and complement that. Whereas if I just did the red-nosed reindeer, there would be no other silver in the entire thing, which would be fine. But also, I don't really have a perfect color for the deer skin or like the deer color. I would like a dark brown, but I don't really have a dark brown right now. So I would prefer not to have to sculpt it out and then paint it since it's late at night. it would just be a lot easier to do the 2 silver little bow charms. And I'm just using my Ivy Fix gel as usual to put those on. By the way, all of my discount codes are always in my description box. You just have to scroll down a little bit. So if you want to know what I have discount codes for, in case you're buying something and just like want a discount, you can check my description box. I do have a discount code for both Crisania Neri's website and Sweden Nail Supply, and a couple other places. That are all in my description box. So yeah, I'm just gonna finish that nail off with a top coat, and then that is the finished set for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. It literally took me all day, and I definitely don't think that I will be doing as much sculpted nail art like in each set in the future, because sculpted nail art does take a very, very long time. So I have so much respect for how much sculpted nail art that she does, because honestly, I set out to do it for all 5 nails and I didn't even do it. So yeah. But I really, really enjoyed using Crisania's sculpting gel. It is definitely so much better than the sculpting gel that I've used in the past, and I'm so thankful to have it now. If you would like to try it out, you can use the code ANN10 for 10% off on all of Crisania's products on her website and on Sweden Nail Supply, which she also sells on now. But yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It helps me out so much and I really appreciate it. And also, don't forget to subscribe. I hope that you are having the most amazing day, night, week, life. Sleep well if you're going to sleep, cutie. I will hopefully see you in my next one. Bye. Mwah.